absolutely, I can't even say it yet. I can't say it yet. You got a ton of room, reach in, pull the plug wires off. Finding this very hard to believe right now. All right, so if you've got an 858 and you've got some miles on it, more than likely you've encountered the RPM fade that everyone online is talking about. Feels very similar to a secondary clutch issue where it's not backshifting all the way. Grab a handful at 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, maybe even higher, right? And it just doesn't really do what it should do, right? It kind of lays over 7,400, 7,600, maybe slowly climbs up to peak RPM. Maybe it doesn't. Sometimes it just sits there and goes, whoa. Most likely you know what I'm talking about if you've got one of these, right? So if you put a bunch of miles on, you've probably seen it fade out. A lot of people think it's either clutching, they could think it's exhaust valves. Exhaust valves have been somewhat of an issue here and there, but when that happens, it's very apparent. You're basically limited to 6,000, 6,200 RPMs. Almost sounds like that very first stage break-in, right? So unless you're having that issue where you grab a handful and just completely lays over, that's totally separate. That's exhaust valve. But if your sled, for the most part, runs pretty well, say you leave first thing in the morning, you go out and it seems great for a while, and then halfway through the day it's laying over, it's flat, it's not really right, or maybe you don't even get half a day, right? Maybe you get 15 miles in and the thing's acting up, it's not pulling RPM, feels kind of like a dog, right? So if that sounds like what you're going through with your 858 and you're super frustrated, just like the majority of us that have been chasing our tail for all the season so far, you're in luck because Will up at Velocity Sled Performance ended up finding pretty serious mechanical culprit to this. Thankfully, it's a relatively cheap fix, relatively simple. I'm going to show you how to go ahead and fix that on these things, but first, let's actually get into what the issue here is, right? The easiest way, just going to be to show you. Something this small, this somewhat stupid, should not be the culprit, but unfortunately, from what we found, it is. We've put over 1,000 miles collectively amongst 3 different sleds since middle of last week, right? We've been out riding these things nonstop, trying to get them to act up again. And after swapping out the spark plug boots and putting new plugs in, we're back to full power, repeatable RPM all the time, no issues, consistency that now we can actually continue to work on clutching and tunes and other development stuff now that the sled is performing the way it's supposed to. Thankfully, Will up at Velocity ended up continuing on with this when I had gotten so frustrated of chasing clutching and feeling like I had an arm tied behind my back that I ended up kind of parking mine and not really riding it, moved on to riding other stuff and other projects. He kept going, ended up finding this mechanical issue, called me up, said, hey, you got to try this, get it in as many sleds as you can. That's what we did. We got a bunch of miles on, and again, we're having repeatable performance, so now we can develop everything else around it. This is something that we're going to have a small kind of fix-it kit for in the very near future, but it's also something so simple that we know even if we waited to release this information until we had our kit ready, that it would just get knocked off in a week anyway, or a lot of you are smart enough to just go on Amazon or wherever and find a spark plug boot that you think is going to work. So to kind of avoid people buying the wrong ones, we're going to go ahead and put the part number that we're using in our kits down in the description. I'll put it in the pinned comment, all that stuff. That way you guys can go out and order one that we know works and has confirmed to be working for us, just to save everybody time and get you back up on the snow and riding again, because that's what we're really here to do right now, is just bring this fix to you guys so you can ride these sleds and enjoy them the way that they should be running, right? So yeah, it's something that simple causing such an inconsistency in runnability, and it's wild to myself and Will up at Velocity that there are clutch kits and parts and exhaust things and stuff coming out developed off of these things as they are. Like, they're not consistent enough to develop something that's going to be repeatable. It's crazy, and I understand the season's short and companies have to make money and stuff, but the season's too short to be putting stuff out like that. So that's why we haven't released any clutch kits, we haven't released any tunes. We've been chasing just getting the stock package to work like reliably and appropriately. And now that we have that, now we can go into developing our clutch kits, developing the tunes. Will's working on that. He's logging stuff. He's already been out riding a pile of miles with the Fix-It kit on there, developing all that stuff. So we're hoping to have a lot of that released in the near future here. But until then, at least you guys can fix the main issue itself, and just go enjoy your sled for a while or the remainder of the season until you decide to upgrade or whatever you're going to do down the road. Maybe you're just going to leave it alone, but at least it will run the way it's supposed to. So all that said and wrapped up, also, I know there's going to be people that are going to say that that's not the fix, it can't be that, blah, blah, blah. I've got 1,000 miles of chasing issues, trying to dial clutching in, trying to fight this, trying to fight that. Nothing worked. Throw new plug caps, wires on, new plugs, everything. Go out, run it, and I've got almost 300 miles of just flawless performance in terms of RPM repeatability over and over. So it is what it is. If you don't want to believe it and you want to keep chasing issues, by all means, go ahead. If you want to try it, relatively cheap fix to go and try. So all that finally said, wrapped up, let's get into pulling the panels off and all that stuff. Basically just blast it apart, and I'll show you real quick how to spin off a plug cap and spin a new one on in case you guys aren't familiar with that. And then, yeah, we'll either get into more riding footage after this, or maybe it was before it. I'm not really sure the way I'm going to put all this together. But yeah, let's get into it. Also, before I really dig into doing the walkthrough portion of this, if you're having issues where your sled only makes like 6,000, 6,200 RPMs and really lays over and does not sound right, more than likely you've slipped an exhaust valve arm on the actual shaft or the valve itself, or you have a stuck valve. That issue is very apparent and is not really what we're talking about within this video and like the RPM issue. So if you have something like that where it really is just like and it almost sounds like the first stage of break-in, completely different issue with the exhaust valves and stuff. You got to go to your dealer, have all that fixed, realigned, yada yada. But if your sled for the most part runs normal-ish and you end up with, you know, halfway through the day or 15 miles in or whatever, and it just really lays over and it's not happy, more than likely your spark plug boots are full of corrosion, poor contact, all that stuff. They're not really working very well. So that's what we're talking about in regards to this issue. Let's keep going, moving the pipe. If you haven't done any of this stuff yet and you're going to do this at home, it's very simple. You basically just need a spring puller and a 17mm wrench or an adjustable set of pliers or wrench of some sort, whatever. 17mm, take your main pipe EGT sensor out. Can we not wheel all over there? Our caliber dollies just roll too good. So yeah, you blast this out. Sometimes they're a little stiff, kind of stuck in there. Always recommend putting some anti-seize or some copper anti-seize stuff on there before they go back in. So there's that. Once you get that out, then it's just one spring over here, your 4 for the Y pipe, the 2 on the muffler over there, and you can weasel the pipe out. The Y pipe ones are pretty rugged. They are not as bad as the Comp Turbo ones. Also, the lower one over here sometimes is tough to get to, so, or tricky to get your puller onto it. If it is, I usually go down, hook it, and then pull it up to the top. Try and roll it as high up as you can. Put it in like this. Use this crossbar here as your little pry tool, and off you go. And then these guys, you just gotta give them a big tug job. And on the muffler, traditional deal. Oh, you hoser. Gotta give them a good yoinking. All right, and then I have found the easiest way. Give her a pickup over there. Make sure you don't lose your donut. To the front as much as you can. Pull this thing way over, bend it right out of the way, roll your pipe up, and then you're good to go. All right, so once your pipe is out of the way, obviously you got a ton of room. I'm at a really awkward spot, but neither here nor there. Pipe's out, you got a ton of room, reach in, pull the plug wires off. We're just gonna move. We're gonna move. I'm gonna be out of frame, but that's all right. Pull your plug up, boop-a-doop-a-doo, your wire rather, not your plug. And then you just keep twisting this thing here and pulling outward a little bit, and then it'll pop right off. Don't pull it and tear it apart because there is a little threaded piece in here that threads into the wire. So you just keep spinning them, they walk their way right out. That's it. Once you get the plug caps off, grab your new ones, dielectric grease in here, spin them back on or spin them on, then dielectric, whatever. But make sure you get some dielectric grease in here, spin them back on until they kind of bottom out and stop. I guess I will show you real quick. You'll be able to feel them tighten up, right? As you start spinning it in here, it's eventually gonna get to a point right there where it starts to tighten up and you can see there's some resistance on it, it springs back. You don't need to keep cranking away. It's pretty much all they need right there. Throw your dielectric grease in, snap them back on, reassemble, go out and ride. So that's pretty much it. Easy swip swap action there. Kind of wild that that is a problem that we have to go through and do, but it is what it is. Oh, that connector's all cattywampused in there. While I'm doing that, it is worth noting that I know how some of the internet is and what you guys are gonna think and might go do. You do not want to use a ceramic plug end or a ceramic boot on a two-stroke. There are simply there's too much vibration, harmonics, all that stuff from a two-stroke. Don't go putting a ceramic boot on here. You need a nice, high-quality rubber boot. Again, part number and everything, description, pinned comment, yada, yada, yada. But if you're watching this video, that means that we do have a fix. I'm going to tell you about it in a while. But yeah, as of me and my brain narrating right now, no idea if this is going to work or not. Just because I tried so much other shit that didn't work, that it's the way I am, way it is right now. Let's see what happens when we get way up top. Interesting. Interesting. There is absolutely, I can't even say it yet. I can't say it yet. Nope, still too early. Wow. Huh. I am finding this very hard to believe right now. Alright, this is the hill right here where we usually start to fall right off. Holy shit. Interesting. Okay. Starting to get a little hopeful, Don't want to do this to myself though. Oh, of course my low fuel light's gonna come on. I kinda think we got it, dude. Oh, shit. No f***ing way, bro. It sounds different too, which is the crazy part. And I didn't want to say it until I was kind of, you know, at least 75% confident it was going to stay that way. It just sounds so much cleaner and happier. This is nuts. It's so simple too, unreal. I have done this testing spot with this sled, I cannot even count how many times this season trying to sort this out. And Will called me this morning with the most ridiculous find in the world, and I tried it today and then some. I went a slightly different route than what he did, but in the same exact fix, right? And it's 1,000 times better. Like, it did not fall off, it didn't falter, it didn't do anything weird once, it didn't lay over all the way up through, and where normally it certainly would have. I mean, I have all the footage, you guys saw the stuff, you saw my frustration. I cannot believe this is working so far, and I hope that if you're watching this right now that this is a much longer video and we're still in the beginning of it, and that we have a very, very simple, affordable fix-it kit for these things now, or at least just information for you guys to go fix it yourself, because it's ridiculous that something like this has been causing so many people so much frustration. I'm super glad it's a very simple fix.
But on the same token, some of those things, again, we're like, this should not have been an issue that we all had to chase. So we are really just out here for repeatable performance. RPMs might be high, they might be low compared to what you think they're supposed to target on the internet, because I'm trying some clutching stuff at the same time. But with this fix, we're really just looking for repeatable RPM throughout our ride. That's all we really care about. Repeatable RPM, and it just doing what it's supposed to do, generally, right? That's it. That's all we want these things to do, is run the way that they're supposed to run. That's it. Been out through here since Dave and Scott worked their magic yesterday. Look at the carpet they laid down out here. Whew. So I've just been doing, you know, a lot of quick cuts to like this thing doing what it's supposed to, leaving corners, but like you can hear how much happier the thing is every time. It's wild that some spark plug caps or boots, however you want to call them, are the main culprit here. I don't know how much more I need to really go film and try to prove, but like, we're out here cruising. Let me get after this little thing here. Ah! Oh my god! So I mean, I'm about 11 miles, 12 miles into my little ride through here, and normally this thing would be laying right over on his face by now. 50, bunch of snow. That's been struggling with this issue is going to see how I'm riding this thing and know that it's light years better than what they're dealing with. I'll tell you one thing, it's incredibly nice to have this thing running the way it's supposed to, pulling RPM and all that. I mean, just doing what it's supposed to do out of the box continuously all the time. It's just so refreshing. So huge thank you to Will over at Velocity Sled Performance for sticking with this thing when I had kind of just pushed it off to the side and started riding other stuff because I was too frustrated. So gotta give credit where credit's due. Will at Velocity, you're a wizard, brother.